Hey guys, Anthony here from Worthy Watchers, and I just wanted to talk about a movie that I saw a week ago, but it's been in my head, it's been kind of like sticking there, and I finally think that I thought about it enough where I feel like I can talk about it. It's Damien Chazelle's First Man. This movie, I think if you haven't heard about it, what have you been seeing? This movie, I think, is going to be one of the biggest Oscar nomination contenders as we get towards the end of the year, along with an overwhelming amount of other movies, I think. There's a lot of movies this year that I think could be pretty good Oscar noms, and we technically haven't even reached the Oscar season yet. So I'm really looking forward to it. And the reason why that this movie is going to get tons of Oscars is three things: director, starring actor, soundtrack. First, the director. Damien Chazelle knocks it out of the park again. If you're not familiar with the name itself, you should be familiar with some of his movies. He directed La La Land and, before that, Whiplash, which was a really standout, first directing, debut. It was a great movie, featured some tense scenes and some expert, writing. Dialogue was nailed it. So, for First Man, the thing that Damien Chazelle did here was that he went out of the ballpark completely from his first two movies. He went out of his way on this movie to separate himself from those two. And it was a good call, I think, because First Man showed me that you can get out of just the traditional sense of drama on drama for Damien Chazelle, and he can start getting into things like action, crazier themes of maybe even horror, thrillers, suspense. And in this movie, he tackles sci-fi with a deft hand. The shots in this movie are incredible, and all of the drama of the movie serves as a backdrop to this story of a guy who's just trying to deal with loss. And it's a pretty crazy topic. I didn't anticipate it when I went into the movie. And I think that whole message of loss and dealing with the pain of it, the distractions that you place on yourself, your own aspirations, having a goal, getting to that goal, and then finally being able to say goodbye in the way that you want to. That whole message would not have been imparted without the incredible work from Ryan Gosling. And it's like a half on this one, because I also need to shout out, and I'm not sure who did it, but the cinematographer for this, obviously out of this freaking world. Every shot is just honed in on Ryan Gosling's face. Literally, there are shots where you're just seeing his eyes, straight up in the camera, moving, looking, his face just turning, seeing him just silently observe things. And there's something about Ryan Gosling not talking in movies that is just, you can't look away. There's only few actors that can do this, and Ryan Gosling's one of them. That's why Drive is so good. That's why Only God Forgives is so good. There's a reason why a lot of filmmakers just put Ryan Gosling in front of the camera, tell him to shut up, look at things, because he just knows how to get it. There are a lot of scenes in here where he says absolutely nothing, or very few lines, and you are able to be in the moment with him so empathically. And that's the magic of films. That's why these movies are incredible, because they make you feel something. A story, you get a connection, and that's what this movie did for me. Gave me that connection, and Ryan Gosling was huge in it. I also need to quickly shout out the incredible Claire Foy. Her supporting actress role in this movie is really good. And I was afraid that in this role of because this is set in the 60s, and I thought it might be a little too traditional in that sense of there's the wife, she's doing this stuff, and then there's the man on the moon. But there's a twist there, and there's a lot of moments where she really challenges him, checks him, and reminds him of the grounded reality of where he's at. You're trying to go out in space, but don't forget us here on this earth. I need you to help me do this. It wasn't just Claire supporting the man. It's actually more hey, you need to come and support me. I'm doing this by myself. These kids don't know you. And I think, again, credit to the talent in this movie. Claire Foy nailed that and really helps you empathize with the character. And that third point, soundtrack. Soundtrack. Justin Hurwitz, man, he is freaking good. I didn't think that he could do something that sounded so incredibly out of this world, but also so at home as well. And I think, again, that ties into one of the elements of this movie, you know, the man trying to get away from everything, yet he can't, you know. He's kind of pulled back literally from gravity, and he can't escape that gravity. And that whole sense of it for this movie, like there's a song that plays, theme music that plays when, you know, he's walking off to the launch pad and he's had so many people in his life that Ryan Gosling's character has lost. And he's just walking and you see this determined face with him. And it almost sounds like a battle music for a minute. And then it changes, it shifts. There's a moment of sadness that you feel, but then triumph as he says, no, I am going to do this. There's this shot that ties in so well with that music, and it's one of the best things I've seen all year cinematically, where this rocket is taking off. And I haven't seen a rocket take off and in outer space in this way before. And seeing it in IMAX, it was just like, I want to go watch it again. I mean, even if I didn't love the performances and the actors and necessarily the storyline, even if I didn't love those things, which I do, the shots alone, the music and the sound of the film just bring it to another level, and it resonates with you after watching it. I really, really, really love the soundtrack, so shout out to Justin Hurwitz for nailing yet another soundtrack and doing something that I didn't think he would be able to do, and man, he nails it. So all in all, this movie as a package, it's succinct, it's really good, and if there was one criticism, I think I'm gonna borrow my brother's criticism that he had coming out of this movie, is that sometimes there are characters inserted into the movie that have like this quick explanation of why they're there, and then they just exist. And I think the choice was so that you could get Neil Armstrong's story as so much of the forefront, so you could really get into him and him alone. And again, Claire Foy does a great job of taking moments away from that in a good way that support the story of the movie. But these other side characters that come in, sometimes they don't get enough time to really have their moments, so to speak. And for example, I think one of the big ones was Buzz Aldrin. He comes in and, you know, he's just kind of an ass, and it's a little bit of a faux thing, I think, in Damien Chazelle's movies. There's always got to be an asshole. There's always got to be a dick. Buzz Aldrin is that dick of this movie, but in not like a terrible way either. So he just comes in, he's kind of a dick, and he does things, but it's always Neil's story, so he just kind of feels like a nuisance at times. And if you didn't know the story of the Apollo 11 mission, then I think you might be a little like, wait, who is this guy again? It's understandable. But if you do know the story, this movie doesn't hold your hands, and it's definitely going to treat you like an informed audience. And so for me, it's kind of hard to find that as a personal criticism for myself. But I do understand it for others. So all in all, rating this movie, it's a worthy watch. It's a worthy watch. And I'm really sad that this movie isn't getting more praise from the audience right now. I'm kind of surprised that the audience doesn't like this movie as much as I thought they should. I think if you go on Rotten Tomatoes, like the charts between critical and audience rating, they are just like really imbalanced, and it's staggering to me because I think this one would have been one of the ones that everyone would just get into. So, little surprised by that, but for me, it's a worthy watch. Go check out this movie for the soundtrack, the shots, the great acting, and just the overall vision. It's a solid 9 out of 10 worthy watch. Please check out this movie. And hey, please check out more of our content here. Over at Worthy Watches, we're giving you more reviews than ever before. Reviews at least once a week, if not twice, maybe 3 times. We'll see what we can do for you. So stay tuned over here for more content. And as always, let's go watch what's worthy.